Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be a response to an email that I received from a father who's struggling, dealing with his toxic ex, trying to make the best decisions for his own sanity and for his son in this particular case. So if you're not interested in that particular topic that I do on this channel, this might not be the video for you. But I'm Duane, and if you want to learn how to get your life back, break the cycles of abuse, strengthen the relationships with yourself and your kids, start right now by hitting the subscribe button, clicking the bell so you don't miss a thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so I got this email, and it's actually from a client who I've done a coaching call with earlier, and I'm going to just go over this, and then we'll deep dive into this. It says, "Hey, how are you doing? I really appreciate talking with you the other day. I do need some advice on a situation that arose yesterday with my ex. I went to pick up my son yesterday, and I got ambushed with her having told our son that his stepbrothers were coming down next weekend and they want to see him. Great, right? But it's not her weekend, it's mine. So I'm really kind of stuck here. On one hand, it's my weekend. On the other, he is very excited to see his stepbrothers because his mother essentially got him worked up that way. A big part of the problem is that she is always using him to manipulate me and just manipulating me, period. This summer I was in a location at a conference, and that happens to be where his ex's mother lives. And he was initially supposed to get some time with his son. Needless to say, it all fell apart. And, he had plans and all those kind of things. So anyways, it goes down. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't really want, it's more of a broad topic that I want to hit on this. Here's the thing. The first thing is you have to expect that a narcissistic, toxic ex is going to do everything in their power to try to make your life a living hell. And they are absolutely going to use the children to facilitate that goal. Now, that doesn't make it easy, and it makes it really annoying. And the problem is that we get so wrapped up on the fight with them that we really lose sight of what's going on. Now, I have talked about this in the past, and if I could find the video where I talked about this in my own situation where I had a very similar situation, I'll put a link into it if I can find it. It's getting harder and harder to find old videos. If somebody else knows what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the story where I had my daughter had a friend come into town. So if anybody knows what video that is, put it in the comments below so that I can easily find it. But here's the thing. And the key on this in this particular story is when this individual is saying that his son's excited to see his stepbrothers. Now, it doesn't matter who it is, but when your kid's excited about it, you've kind of already lost, right? I mean, yes, you can say no, just like I could have said no in that situation in that previous video I was talking about. But whenever your kid's really excited about something and focused on it, you're basically being tricked. It's a trap to make a decision like that, to effectively actively be involved in your own triangulation with your child. I mean, effectively, the child's being triangulated with you, and the other parent is using them as a pawn, which is absolutely wrong. But, it is what it is. Now, oftentimes, you guys hear me talk about this whole scenario in the context of battles and wars, using, my military, Air Force background. We can make decisions that we can win in the moment, like the battles, but it may not be strategic to make that decision. In this particular situation, my recommendation would be, especially since his son is excited to see his brothers, basically, even though they're stepbrothers. I mean, they're still his, well, okay, I was thinking half brothers are a little different. But I mean, if he's excited to see somebody, like in my story, it was a friend. It was a friend my daughter used to go to school with. They had moved away. They were going to be in town, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be biological relations or anything like that. It's just if it's somebody special that the kids are interested in, you really have to think through how you're going to approach that. So again, on this, what I would recommend is you make it happen. It sucks. You and I both know that you're being manipulated, that the kid's being played with, that the appropriate way would have been to deal with that would have been to say, hey, Bill, let's say this person's name is Bill, Johnny's stepbrothers are going to be in town. I know it's your weekend, but would there be any way for us to swap time or for him to be able to see his stepbrothers, right? And in a reasonable situation, if you were to say, oh my God, no, we have this trip or we're going on this thing or whatever, we're going on this camping trip. We've already scheduled it. Oh, that's so terrible. And then you'd be able to go, oh, okay. And then the other parent wouldn't mention anything to the child because there'd be no reason to. There'd be no reason to bring it up. And you could go about your business. Or conversely, what would happen is you'd be like, oh yeah, you know what? Not a problem. We didn't have much going on, or I can move it, or yeah, sure. We'll just swap weekends. How about we do this? That's you get that weekend. We'll just swap the other one. Not a big deal. When you're dealing with a toxic person, it doesn't work like that. You and I both know that. So you can expect that this whole scenario is exactly the way it would play out. And it's exactly the way it played out with me. The ex tried to talk to me at first, and then whenever I didn't respond in a quick enough fashion, whatever. Next thing I know is my daughter is telling me how excited she is, and can I go? That type of thing. The only caveat I would say is if, in this particular situation, or let's say in my situation, if my daughter wasn't excited about this trip, it was like, no, I don't really want to go. I don't really want to do that. Or, it's not that really that thing. It's more, my friend's mom is more friends with my mom. And that's why this is happening. Because there are some situations in my situation or in my circumstance where that has been the case. Then you make a different decision, right? But if your kid is basically saying that they want to do it and they're excited about it, you need to try to facilitate to make it happen. The risk on this is if you don't, it will absolutely be used against you that you are being difficult, that you only care about yourself, that you're not willing to put the needs of the child above anything, blah, blah, blah. Just lay out the laundry list of BS that's going to be out there. So you really have to be cautious of what how you approach things, what you decide to do, and how you decide to do it. Again, going back to what I was mentioning before with the battles and the wars, you have to look at it strategically and say, is this a fight worth fighting? Is this a fight worth fighting? And from what I've seen in the email, it's not. Now, and I gave you an example of my situation where it wasn't either, where it was like it wasn't worth the fight. I knew I'd already been checkmated before the whole thing even started. And even when I was trying to facilitate to make things happen and establish some type of boundaries, like for in this situation, what I would recommend is a swap. Say, hey, you know what? That's great. Let's swap this. If you're willing to swap this other weekend, we'll do it. It's great. Not a problem. Or these other days or whatever, to whatever. And I would say if that doesn't happen, or you've done that a few times and they don't do it, then you have a little bit more flexibility to say no. But still, you got to look at it from how your child's looking at it. Now, conversely, what I was going to mention is like the first Christmas story that I've talked about in my situation, where the ex was like, we're going, for 28 days on Christmas to out of state. I'll let the kids know where you are, that type of thing. And I'm like, oh, hell you are. This was way early on. This is before I had all this awareness of what was really going on. And I was incredibly struggling with this. And this was a fight that was worth fighting. And partly that was because when the kids came back to, this happened, it's like, oh, hey, just letting you know, Duane, the kids are out of school on this Wednesday and we're leaving the state, on Thursday and, it'll be great. And I'm like, no, the court order says that I get to see the kids on Christmas Day. So you can go on your trip. I don't care, but I'm going to see the kids on Christmas. The flip side to that is when the kids came back, they were like, really wanted to see me on Christmas. They wanted to be able to see both of them. This was like the first Christmas that we were actually divorced. And the kids were not happy about it. They were not, they were not thrilled about it. Had the kids come over and been like, "Oh my God, we get to go to out of state for Christmas for the break, and we're so excited, and it's going to be so great, and we're going to go to the fair, and we're going to go to the zoo and the aquarium and whatever else." I mean, if they were like, all of them were super excited about it, again, I would have been in one of those situations where I would have felt that I was checkmated on it, and I would just be saying no just because, right? I think the guiding light on this is to focus on what is best for your kid. And the example I used when I emailed this person back, as I said, look at it this way. And this is what I would recommend anyone doing this. Take your ex out of the equation. Let's say little Johnny comes up to you and says, "Mommy, Daddy, Billy's having a sleepover this weekend. And can I go?" And would you say no? Let me clarify this. We have to make the assumption that, your ex has legal rights to have your child unsupervised. So in other words, let's say like little Johnny's, little parents or whatever, or great people, them, you're not worried about it. You're going to make it happen. You're going to find some way to make it happen. That's kind of the way you have to look at this. You have to not look at this as in you're making a deal with Satan. You're making a deal, or you're orchestrating something to help your child do something that's important to them. Now, like I said, a lot of caveats on that. I mean, if you're completely against sleepovers or whatever, but I think you could take that example and say, if your kid came back and said, "Hey, my best friend is having, they're going into town and they're going to go to the miniature golf thing. Can I go?" You're more than likely going to say yes, right? Look at it that way. Don't look at it, like I said, don't look at it that you're making a deal with the devil or you're letting someone get away with something. You have to kind of compartmentalize it and not look at what the pain is or what the other person's doing or whatever. Now, I get the whole thing that if little Johnny's parents are people you don't trust, or it's bad and they shouldn't happen, that's not what I'm talking about. There's all kinds of ways to put caveats on this. And I said at the end of the day, you have to make the best decision, right? You're going to know your specific circumstances, but you need to slow yourself down and take a pause and look at it a more objectively. And I'll just say, that is not easy to do. That is really tough. I've struggled with that a lot. It's one of those things that it's like a fundamental shift in your perspective on how you're interacting with everybody and your overall goal. Again, look at it from the bigger picture, the war side of it, the whole thing. What you're trying to do is you're trying to maintain your relationship with your child, not be a stepping stone, right? I'm not talking about this in a situation if you're being manipulated by your kid or you're being triangulated by your kid to do certain things. Just on the up and up is you're trying to maintain that relationship with your child. You're trying to demonstrate with them that even if you don't have a good relationship with their mother or their father, whatever the case may be, that you are focused on their best interest and helping them achieve what they want to achieve. And at the same time, keeping the lines of communication open so that they feel comfortable to talk to you, right? Because you do not want to get into a situation where they don't bring certain things up because they know that it's going to make you upset, or they're worried about the reaction they're going to get from you. Now, last little caveat I'll say on this, because this was another situation that happened with me, because this is kind of weird, because this was my driving force throughout all of this, even before I had the epiphany of what was going on. There were a few times where there were some events, not that I was going to take the kids to, but it was at the school. It was like, because I was paying for the summer camps and everything, and I swear to God, it seems like every time there was some cool trip, it was on their mom's day. And at one point, my youngest was like, "Oh, I really want to go on this trip." I'm like, "Okay, if you really want to go," pulled out the keyboard, clickety clacked, "Dear X, our child really wants to go to this. Can they go? And the answer was no. And then typically it was like the ex would wait until like midnight or 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning of the day that I would need to know. And then it would be like, no, I've decided no, thank you for your interest, but no, some really snarky thing. And then when I would talk to my daughter in this particular situation, when these couple of times this stuff happened, it was always the ex made something else special, something else that was like, oh, well, we can do this, and it's my time anyways, right? And I finally, in that situation, I told my child, I'm like, look, I'm not going to beat myself up anymore. If you want to do something, you need to ask your mom, get her to do it, and I'll make it happen. But I'm not going to put myself in the crosshairs anymore. And so there are some things you have to do. I mean, you can't. This all isn't just pie in the sky. Everything's bucket full of rainbows. This is a turd sandwich, and we have to figure out the best way to deal with it. So I hope that's helpful. It sucks seeing people go through this, and I remember me going through it. If you think you could use some help on this and you want to book some time with me, you can do that over at dadsurvivingdivorce.com/coaching. I have slots available every other weekend I open up slots whenever I don't have the kids around, and on Mondays, most Mondays. Bottom line is, guys, you have to really look at this in the bigger picture sort of view, the 10,000 or the 30,000 view, and just make sure you're not just focusing on what the ex is getting away with and trying to make sure that things go in a certain way, because you will drive yourself insane, and it's really tough to try to directly fight somebody on this. It's just an exercise in frustration. So on that, I hope that was helpful. If you have some other suggestions on how you've dealt with this, I would love to hear those in the comments below. And on that, I will catch you on the next video. Take care.